Lincoln Riley might be coaching for his job Saturday when USC takes on Oregon. Remember all those people that said it's playoffs or bust for him at USC? Well, this game is playoff or bust. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Shemon, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer and part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now the number one sports podcast network. Thank you very much. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Hey, hit that free subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode and you'll put us to 25,000. We're this close to 25,000 subscribers. Also, if you could share, follow, and like, that helps us out too. And you can hype YouTube videos too. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. So this USC-Oregon game, it's big. It's a pressure cooker for Lincoln Riley. We'll have Big Ten news, injuries, recruiting, and James Franklin got a job, plus our Tuesday tweets all coming up. But I want to ask you, does anybody out there remember when USC Athletic Director Jennifer Cohen said, hey, we've spent a lot of resources here on our football program. We expect to win. A lot of people thought that was a not-so-veiled shot at Lincoln Riley saying, hey, 7-5 is not going to cut it around here anymore. Let's go. All right. So expectations have been high at USC for Lincoln Riley, and the expectation is to get into the 12-team college football playoffs. Not 4 anymore. It's 12. We got to be able to get in it. Fair enough, right? USC is a big boy program. I get it. So my question is this still true? And if it is still true, and I think it is, does that make Saturday's game at number 8 Oregon a must-win game for USC? You know, if the Trojans lose this game, they're not going to make the college football playoffs. They're going to have 3 losses. They're going to be outside the top 10 or 12 or whatever it's going to take to get in when you factor who all gets into those 12 playoff spots. And I wonder if that could be it for Lincoln Riley. And if they win the game, and they don't trip up in their season finale against UCLA, then I definitely think that they're in the playoffs. Absolutely. That'd be very good for Lincoln Riley. In fact, when the updated college football rankings come out later tonight on Tuesday night, you know, Oregon may be ranked even higher than 8th, I think. And that would be even a bigger feather in the cap for USC or their resume for a playoff bid if they were able to win this game on Saturday. And at this point, I actually would also be curious to see how far Oregon falls next week if they lose to USC. And, you know, USC's a ranked team. You know, the Ducks are banged up for this one. And I think it's going to be pretty close when we take a look at these rankings to see where everybody's going to be when they all come out later on tonight. So we're going to take a closer look at the Ducks tomorrow in preparation for this game and look at all their injuries and what they have to deal with to take on USC this upcoming weekend. But the reason this is so important is we here at Locked On Big Ten and Big Ten fans and these schools at Oregon and USC, we're looking for a certain scenario where maybe both USC and Oregon can make the playoffs, because selfishly, we want 4 Big Ten teams to make the playoffs, part of the 12-team field. And if Oregon wins on Saturday, which they could, we'll probably only get 3 teams in the college football playoffs. It'll be Ohio State, it will be Indiana, it will be Oregon, and that will probably be it. There's a whole nother scenario if Michigan runs the table, including beating number 1 Ohio State. We'll save that for next week. But if USC goes up there and wins at Oregon, like I said, USC will get in the playoffs. Will Oregon fall out? That's what I'm curious. And that's why tonight's rankings mean so much. Can Oregon keep inching up so that there's room to fall and not fall out of the playoff chase? So all this said, I wonder if Lincoln Riley is really coaching for his job of this must-win scenario on Saturday. again, if he loses, does he get fired because he didn't make the playoffs? Is that what's going to happen? And is that really the right move here? First of all, his buyout is still extremely high if they decide they want to go in another direction. It's almost $70 million. And it remains above $50 million through at least 2028. 50 million, 70 million. These buyouts, they don't seem to matter that much anymore. There's always a donor willing to write a check somewhere, right? But there are other things to consider here for USC. Win or lose, Lincoln Riley and his Trojans, they're on a heater right now, man. Since storming back only to blow that lead at Illinois, they've since gone 4-1 since that Illinois game. By the way, I've said this before. I'll say it again now. They're going to continue to rue the day that they lost that game in Champaign, Illinois. I mean, imagine if that game was in the win column instead of the loss column. So now we'd be talking about a one-loss USC team going into the Oregon game, and they would be ranked in the top 10 right now, probably right behind Notre Dame, the only other team that they lost to. And by the way, they were good enough to win that game, if not for the kickoff return and the turnover. I thought USC was the better team that night. They just didn't pull it all together. Nevertheless, the win versus Michigan, actually it was a blowout win against Michigan for USC. That carries a lot of weight with the alums and the boosters. And they weathered that tough blackout at Lincoln. They beat the Huskers. They had a big second half to beat a scrappy Northwestern team a couple of weekends ago. And then, of course, they overcame that two-touchdown deficit to beat a ranked Iowa team in the rain this past Saturday. So this USC football team has been very entertaining. Win or lose, people pay to see a team like this play. They're fun to watch. They really are. And USC, dare I say, is now relevant again. I think a lot of us expected that when the 4 Pac-12 teams came over to the Big Ten, that they would soon join. A couple of them would join the upper tier. Maybe USC and Oregon would be mentioned in the same breath as Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State. And, well, we can forget about Penn State this year. But 2 years ago, nobody saw Indiana coming. Now they're in the elite, right? But ironically, win Saturday over former Pac-12 rival Oregon will put USC in that upper tier of the Big Ten again. So, if they lose, they're going to be stuck in the higher end of that second tier. And that's what they're trying to get out of. That's what they're trying to climb up out of. So if they come up just short by a game, lose to Oregon, whatever, is that worth blowing all this up? What about the number 1 recruiting class in the country for the class of 2026? That's USC. Lincoln Riley put that together along with GM Chad Bowen. Is that is it worth blowing that up? Do you want to risk blowing that up and have the kids scatter elsewhere? So, and this is part of the magic formula for Lincoln Riley. Even if he loses Saturday and fails to make the playoffs, when you look at this team currently being relevant, you combine that with this huge buyout, you combine that with the number 1 recruiting class of 2026, I think there's no way that Jennifer Cohen steps in and removes Riley from the job right now. I just don't. So I think that's where we stand right now. So win or lose, is this a must win? Yeah, everybody wants to win it. Is he fired if he doesn't get it and doesn't get this game Saturday and doesn't get into the playoffs? I don't know. He'll be back. He'll be back next year. Unless he leaves for another job on one of these crazy job openings that are out there across the country. And there are rumors about that too, by the way. We'll save that for another day. Let's play the USC-Oregon game first. It's the game of the week. And remember, we're going to go live after that game here on Locked On Big Ten. We always pick a big game to go live, instant reaction here on our Locked On Big Ten channel. And that's the game we're going to go after right after USC and Oregon. We think that'll end around 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. Join us here live. Mark your calendars. Subscribe. You'll get an alert that we're coming on live. I get your reaction just as much as you get mine. That's what makes it so fun. Be sure to hit that free subscribe button. That way you'll never miss another episode. And if you could share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, that helps us out as well. And also, don't forget, we have a website, talkbig10.com. It's the number 10, talkbig10.com. All of our podcasts go there. They're archived. You can go back and check out yesterday's podcast for a second listen. There are links for you to buy your favorite school merchandise there, shirts, T-shirts, hats with your school logo on it, all that in time for the holidays. So you might want to check that out as well. Lots to do. James Franklin, former Penn State coach, he's got a job now. We'll tell you where he landed. Plus, we've got Buckeye wide receiver injury updates. Michigan gets a new quarterback, and Tuesday tweets all coming up in a minute here on Locked On Big Ten. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So even if you miss the start of a game, you want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score to fourth quarter comebacks. You can jump right in there with your live betting, and you could parlay it with your stuff you put in together before the game and have a chance at an even bigger payout. Keeps every game very exciting, especially when your team's making a late push and you want to jump in. You're like, oh, I missed my opportunity. No, you didn't. You can jump in at any time with FanDuel. My hot tip of the week, take the overs on any Miami Heat game. Hits all the time. Well, not all the time, but close. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com and sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten and making us your first listen each and every day. And thank you for making Locked On the number one sports podcast network out there. Hey, especially you everydayers out there. Thank you. Hit that free subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode because we're here every day. And if you could share, follow, and like, that would help us out a lot too. And we have a website, talkbig10.com. All right. Former Penn State football coach, James Franklin. He's now the new head coach of Virginia Tech in the ACC. Franklin has a record of 128 wins and 60 losses over 15 seasons at both Vanderbilt and Penn State. He did so well at Vanderbilt. That's why he got the Penn State job years ago. And he's going to replace one of his former defensive coordinators, Brent Pry, who was fired in September after an 0-3 start. And after his firing there at Virginia Tech, the school's Board of Visitors passed a plan to add over $200 million in funding to the athletic budget over the next 4 years. Like, oh, you know what? We got to spend more money, but let's fire a coach and let's spend more money. Oh, and let's hire James Franklin. That's what's going on over there. Look, I think this is a great landing spot for James Franklin. He'll have a little less pressure at Virginia Tech than he had at Penn State. He can turn that into a developmental program and maybe more, maybe quickly turn it around. And of course, he'll be their highest profile coach there since Frank Beamer back in the days he was coaching Michael Vick. Look, he got fired at Penn State this year. They had big expectations. They were ranked number 2 in the preseason, lost a double overtime game to Oregon, and then the wheels fell off. But it added to the sentiment that he cannot win the big one. And even though he made it to the playoffs last year, but then losses to UCLA and Northwestern followed, and the school said, we can't do this anymore. Along the way, including his losing streak, and then after he left, they lost 6 straight. They finally snapped that by getting a win at Michigan State this past weekend. So anyway, no word yet on the contract details. It's still being worked out. It was just announced that he's going to be the next coach. Not sure how much money he's going to get, but there is offset language in the Penn State buyout of $50 million. So basically every dollar he earns at Virginia Tech, you can take that off the tally of what Penn State owes him. Now, Virginia Tech won't pay him what he was making at Penn State, but every dollar counts one way or the other. Let's talk about Ohio State for a minute. Do we have a concern at wide receiver? Carnell Tate, of course, tweaked his ankle in warm-ups before the Purdue game a couple of weeks ago. He hasn't been seen since. He says he feels good now, and he should be back on the field. Meanwhile, Jeremiah Smith played this past weekend, but he's been dealing with a nagging issue. Was seen limping on the sideline a little bit of the UCLA game. Had, I think, 4 catches, and then wasn't seen for the rest of it. Made an amazing one-handed catch, and then pretty much was not a factor the rest of the way, sitting out. Ryan Day thinks that Smith will be 100% for the Rutgers game this weekend. Even quarterback Julian Sayin had to visit the injury tent of that game this past weekend against UCLA with an ankle issue. But he said he's feeling fine. In fact, right afterward, the post-game comments, he's like, oh, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. No big deal. So, sigh of relief for Buckeyes fans. Also, Michigan. They've been looking for another class of 2026 quarterback, and it flipped one. And it's a familiar name, 3-star Miami of Ohio commit, Tommy Carr. He is the brother of Notre Dame freshman quarterback C.J. Carr and the grandson of former Michigan coach Lloyd Carr. So he's coming to Ann Arbor, 6'4", 195 pounds, plays for in-state Saline High School. And this season he's thrown for 37 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And he's thrown for over 2,800 yards and run for another 300. Now, the Wolverines do have another commit for the class of 2026. It's 4-star Brady Smigel, but he's recovering from an ACL injury that he suffered here this fall. Also, speaking of injuries with the Wolverines, Justice Haynes, Jordan Marshall. Jordan Marshall hurt his shoulder at the end of the Northwestern game, getting more carries because Justice Haynes has been out with a foot/ankle injury. And I just saw today that Haynes will not be back in the regular season. So it's been lingering. It's a tough deal. And now they're really banged out with Jordan Marshall getting his shoulder hurt. I don't have an update on that. Not yet, but they've been running with the freshman and a walk-on in their place. So they're getting pretty thin at running back. We'll continue to keep an eye on that situation here on Lockdown Big Ten. One of the top receivers in the state of Maryland, LeVar Keys, he's a 3-star. He is committed to Indiana. The Hoosiers had a lot of recruits in town for their regular season home finale against Wisconsin this weekend. Keys has noticed the environment in Bloomington, says it's happening, the passing game, the success of wide receivers there. He says it's going to be the best fit for him. He says Coach Signetti has brought some juice to the program. That's his words. And on the side here, I am going to be curious. I'll share this with you. I'm going to be curious to see IU recruiting this year with Kurt Signetti. He's had a lot of success in his first 2 years, an amazing amount of success, bringing in good, experienced players in the transfer portal. And now with back-to-back successful years, and by following up, last year with this year, now people know it's not a fluke. There's something real going on over there. I'm curious to see now if Indiana will start landing some 4-stars and maybe a 5-star or 2 moving forward, because Indiana's now a destination. It's for real. It's not going away. And Kirk Signetti is a real deal. And I'm kind of curious as to what kind of recruit he'll be bringing in. And maybe is he always going to continue to hit the transfer portal? Because he does like experienced players. There's no question about it. But will he continue to bring in the younger kid, the highly ranked 4-star and 5-star, and infuse the program with that? Could be real curious. No right or wrong answer. Just very curious about it. Meanwhile, I got some men's basketball tonight, Tuesday night. 3-0 and 17th ranked Michigan State is taking on 3-1 number 9 Kentucky. That's at 6:30 on ESPN. It is the State Farm Champions Classic. Look, Michigan State already has a win over John Calipari in Arkansas. They got North Carolina. They got Duke coming up. Tom Izzo will play anybody, anytime, anywhere. Always respected that about him, no matter whether his team is good and experienced or young and new and doesn't know what they're doing yet, no matter where they are in the process. He schedules these games every single year. Also around the Big Ten, American U is at 3-0 Rutgers. That's at 6:30 on the Big Ten Network. Chicago State at 3-1 Minnesota. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Big Ten Plus. Southeast Missouri State is at 3-0 Iowa at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central on the Big Ten Network. Southern at 3-1 Washington. That's a 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific game on Peacock tonight. And Sacramento State is at number 15 and 3-1 UCLA. That is a 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific tip-off on the Big Ten Network. If you are new to us, first of all, welcome aboard. Thank you very much. We do features at the end of our podcast that are unlike anybody else. On Mondays, we do our Big Ten Top 10 observations. On Tuesdays, we do Tuesday tweets. That's coming up in a minute. Wednesdays, we power rank stuff, particularly this time of year. We'll power rank the standings as we see them, 1 through 18. We'll do that tomorrow. Thursdays, we look at the Big Ten Network, common interest, obviously, and we highlight the weekend program with Big Ten Classics and Big Ten Live Action with the play-by-play. And then Fridays, we go on the record. We preview every team, every game, and then we close it out with our pigskin picks. So we always look forward to that each and every week, kind of winding down the week with that going into the games. And then we go live on Saturday. Again, we'll go live right after the USC Oregon game on Saturday. Looking forward to all that. All right. We've got it. Tuesday tweets. Let's see if one of yours made it. That's all coming up in just 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten. Always appreciate you guys, especially everydayers. All right, we're going to do this. We are going to do our Tuesday tweet segment, which I like. We're on Twitter at X, at Talk Big Ten. Send me one. I'll pull it. I always pull stuff and kind of highlight it here at the end of our Tuesday program. So let's have a little bit of fun with this. We're going to go on screen. So if you're on audio only, maybe you don't know, we're also on audio. Spotify, Apple. You can check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Here we got the picture of the Oregon Duck. This is from at Zachary Neal. ESPN's College Game Day making its 35th appearance at an Oregon Ducks game this coming week. There we go. And third one this year. It's because Oregon's a big deal. USC is a big deal. And they're playing each other on Saturday. It's such a big deal that we are going to go live after that one here on Locked On Big Ten. What else we have here? This is from at Oregon football. Big Ten, big one next Saturday at Autzen. Ducks and Trojans with a montage of the Ducks players there, and big one in Autzen. Kickoff. It says 12:30. That's their local time on the West Coast. 3:30 Eastern on CBS with a hashtag Go Ducks. It's going to be big. Here we go. Actually, from 11 Warriors. That's an Ohio State site. Talking about Justice Haynes with a picture of him against Wisconsin from a while back. Star Michigan running back Justice Haynes likely to miss the rest of the regular season, including next week's game against Ohio State, according to Sharon Moore on Monday. Yes, that's I guess good news for Ohio State, bad news for Michigan. Here's a beautiful overhead shot of Memorial Stadium in Bloomington, Indiana, full of red. The season finale. This is from at CFB Kings. And it points out now with Alabama's loss this past weekend, Indiana, they had a 17-game home winning streak. That's over now that they lost to Oklahoma. Indiana now holds the longest active home winning streak in college football at 15 games. How about that? They have the program, the school with the most losses of any program in FBS history is currently the nation's longest home winning streak. What a time to be alive, it says. For sure. Rocking and rolling. All right, here's just from ESPN when they broke earlier. It's a picture of James Franklin with their breaking news from Pete Thamel. Virginia Tech and James Franklin finalizing an agreement for him to become the school's next football coach. All right, there you have it. As soon as we have any details on the deal, we'll let you know. But like I said earlier, when we talked about this, I think this is a good move for both sides. And look, it's not anything crazy like the whiteout at Penn State, but they have a pretty raucous Enter Sandman, Metallica, that's pretty good. It's high on the list of teams entering the football field. I'll tell you that. Here's a picture of Fernando Mendoza, the College Football Report, updated Heisman odds. Via our friends at FanDuel. Fernando Mendoza, -110. He is your leader. Julian Sayin, the next best odds at +210. Marcel Reed, the quarterback at Texas A&M at +500. Diego Pavia at +2,000. Now the odds really start stretching out here. So it looks like it's pretty much a two-man race between Fernando Mendoza and Julian Sayin. Of course, Pavia, the quarterback at Vanderbilt, Gunnar Stockton at +2,500 from Georgia, their quarterback. Haynes King at Georgia Tech on the list. Jeremiah Love, that's the running back at Notre Dame, +4,000. And Jeremiah Smith, +6,000, the running back at Ohio State. So anyway, that's the latest list. It's looking pretty good for Fernando Mendoza, maybe Julian Sayin. And probably not only will the Big Ten championship be decided when Indiana plays Ohio State, but maybe the Heisman as well. Whoever wins that game maybe gets the Heisman. Here's from at Crimson Bison. It is a collage of Kurt Signetti on the football sideline. Derry DeVries, the men's basketball coach, the women's basketball coach on the bottom corner. Indiana is the only school currently undefeated in football, men's basketball, and women's basketball. How about that? Really? The only one? Yeah, I guess so. Makes sense. There's only 3 undefeated football teams. I guess that would make sense. Here is the Kurt Signetti effect. This is from College Football on Fox with a picture of Signetti and 11-0 plastered over his face. First time in program history. Indiana Hoosiers 11-0. Oh, here's what I was just talking about from at College Football on Fox. 12 weeks down, and these are the 3 teams that are still perfect. Only 3. Ohio State, Texas A&M, and Indiana in football. Here is a picture of the city of Detroit skyline with 7 p.m. and FS1 all over it. It's posted from at Michigan State football. Kickoff in Detroit is set 7 p.m. for their season finale for Michigan State. Speaking of Michigan State, at Michigan State content, picture of Tom Izzo, the number 1 recruiting class in the country for 2026. That's what is trending. Michigan State 2026 recruiting class, ranked number 1 in the country, with 5-star Ethan Taylor, a couple of 4-stars, Josiah Jarvis, Carlos Medlock Jr., and Julius Avent. How about that? Tom Izzo still getting it done after all these years. Pretty cool. And as I said, he'll play anybody, anytime, anywhere with his schedule that he has at Michigan State as we overlap football season and basketball season. Always good to talk about that as well. All right, a couple of things I want to talk to you about this weekend. Again, another reminder, because it's big. USC 8-2 at Oregon 9-1, 3:30 Eastern on CBS, 12:30 Pacific. We're gonna go live after that game, so I give you my real raw post-game reaction to that. Plus, we'll recap the other games going on because Michigan State and Iowa will be winding down. Minnesota Northwestern will have played. Ohio State will have played Rutgers. That'll all be done. And then Michigan and Maryland will still be going on. We'll talk about that battle of freshman quarterbacks and Bryce Underwood and Malik Washington. Don't forget, we'll preview the later games. There's 3 night games in the Big Ten this weekend. Nebraska's at Penn State. That's Matt Rule's homecoming, but he's not going anywhere because he just signed his extension at Nebraska. Illinois is at Wisconsin, and Washington is at UCLA super late. So keep all of that in mind. Not only do you get my real raw reaction, I get yours too with real live time comments. We'll always enjoy that and sharing those with everybody. So that's the plan. Tomorrow we'll have our power rankings, all that coming up. In the meantime, thank you for checking us out here tonight and today. And I can't wait. We got college football rankings to talk about when they get rehashed here later on tonight. So we got a lot to do here, and we'll see you tomorrow here on Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Shemon.